We're learning what's next for San Diego Unified Schools. District leaders are delivering this year's State of the District address. KPBS education reporter Megan Burkes is at Sherman Elementary with more.
We're here at Sherman Academy in Sherman Heights, where tonight's State of the District address is going to be. I'm here with Board President Richard Barrera. Hi.
Hi, Megan. Hi.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the highs and lows that we're going to hear about tonight?
Yeah, well, I think Superintendent Martin is going to really focus on what's been incredible progress in our district over the last several years. You know, our graduation rates are at an all-time high. Our test scores are at the top of the state among, large urban districts in California. We had rapid expansion of schools like Sherman, which are dual language immersion schools. So really, so many great things are going on in the district. But what I'm, Megan, frankly, going to talk about is what's our role as a community to support public education. And I think we need to challenge ourselves because we currently in California rank near rock bottom in per pupil funding. And then we see the stress that our kids and our families are under, whether it's a lack of affordable housing or threats around deportation. So I think it's kind of we have highs and lows is a good way of putting it, because the highs are the work that our educators and our parents and our students are doing together every day in our schools and are producing, the highest educational outcomes that we've ever seen, at the same time that we're putting more stress on both our families and our schools. And so I think we need to figure out as a community, are we going to come together and really fight for public education, or are we going to leave our educators on their own? And so that's, I think we should challenge ourselves as a community and also then celebrate the great work that's been done.
I think the district has been pretty active in trying to reassure parents, especially those in the immigrant community.
Yeah.
One thing that we're hearing from parents is a bit of concern about transparency, and there seems to be a movement to kind of change the way that the board is elected. We heard the city of San Diego weigh whether or not to put something on the ballot. There may be still room for that to occur next year. What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, I don't believe that that's coming from parents. I believe that it's a partisan motivated. It's the 4 Republican members of the city council that have put proposals together to change the way that school board elections operate. So I think the question of how the school board elections are held is a conversation that the entire community should participate in. And so Trustee Sharon Whitehurst-Payne and I have been charged by the rest of the board to develop ideas for a community process, and we'll bring that back to the board, for full consideration. But we think everybody in the community should have a chance to weigh in. Do we want more school board districts than we currently have? How do we make sure that we're looking out for the interests of all kids, including the kids in our highest poverty communities, and that we don't turn into a polarized school district that, some board members represent kids north of 8 and other, board members represent kids south of 8. So I think we need to move beyond partisan politics, which I think is what's driving this right now, and really have a broader community conversation about this.
I will say that there are some Democrats on the city council who did agree that term limits might be a good way to move. My other question for you, last year the big kind of news story was unfortunately budget cuts at the district. Do we have any insight as to what next year is going to look like?
Well, last year was a painful year, but what we were able to do last year was pretty much eliminate the structural deficit that the district has faced for 20 years, where revenues expenses have exceeded revenues every year. So, we've got a little bit of work, left to do this year. But the big question, for, again, all of us as a community is, why is it that we're not providing the schools what they need? Given that I think everybody would agree that the smartest thing that we can do as a community is to invest in our public schools. So rather than continue this conversation year after year about what we're cutting, why don't we start to have a conversation about what we're willing to invest in? And I think that's where we need to be going, not only in San Diego, but throughout California.
Thank you, Board President Richard Barrera. This is Megan Burkes reporting from Sherman Heights Elementary School near downtown San Diego. We'll have more on tonight's State of the District address on radio in the morning and on kpbs.org.